Jai. Okay, everybody ready? Can I get my cartels? All right. So it's good to see everybody on Sunday. Give me 1 second. I just want to make sure they can hear us online. Yeah. Okay, everybody ready? Yep, they can hear us online. And let me send a notice out that everybody knows we're online. All right. Okay, welcome to the Sunday program. And we have a very exciting class about the Sthiti Shakshi Gopal today. And we're going to be reading from the Caitanya Caritamrta. We're also going to need someone with this particular mouse to follow as we're reading. That's a mouse. Singular for mice. Or mices. Okay. So first we'll chant, I guess Jai Radhamadhava. That's a good chant. Jayo Radhamadhava Kunya Bihari Jayo Radhamadhava Kunya Bihari Gopijana Balaba Kiri Varadati Gopijana Balaba Kiri Varadati Yasodhanandana pracharanaranyahuna Yasodhanandana pracharanaranyana Yamunatera Vanacharim Yamunate Ravanachari Jai Radhamadhava Kunya Bihari Jai Radhamadhava Kunya Bihari Gopijana Pralaba Giri Varadhari Gopijana Malaba Irivarudade. Yasodhanandana Braja Janaranjana. Yasodhanandana Braja Janaranjana. Yamuna Tiravanachari. Yamuna Tiravanachari. Jai Hurad Humadava Kundaviradi. Jaya Radhu Madhava Kunda Bihari. Jai Om Vishnupad Paramahansa Paravatikacharya also Tada Satashi Shimad. His Divine Grace Abhaya Chaitanya Bhaktivedanta Goswami Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. ISKCON Founder Acharya Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. Ananda Koti Vaishnav Vrinda Ki Jai. Namacharya Srila Huidas Thakur Ki Jai. Prem Se Kaho Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shidwaita Gadadha Shiva Sati Gaur Bhakta Vrinda Ki Jai. Shishi Radha Krishna Gopi Gopinath Shyam Kunda Radha Kunda Giri Govardhan Ki Jai. Vrindavanam Ki Jai. Maturanam Ki Jai. Jagadata Swami Ki Jai. Yamunamai Ki Jai. Shrimati Lasi Devi Ki Jai. Samaveda Bhakta Vrinda Ki Jai. Gaur Premananda Hari Hari Bol. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories the assembled devotees. All glories the assembled devotees. All glories to Shri Guru and Gauranga Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. Gaur Premananda Hari 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 Bol. Nama Om Vishnupadaya Krishna Pristaya Bhutale Srimati Bhaktivedanta Swamini Namani Namaste Saraswati Devi Gauravani Pacharni Nivashesha Shinyavadi Paschatya Dejatarni. So Om Ganatimadandasya Gananjana Shlakya Chakshurun Meditam Yena Tosmai Shri Gurave Namaha. I offer my respectful obeisances unto the lotus feet of my spiritual master, His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada, who so kindly opened my eyes with the torchlight of knowledge while I was blinded in the darkness of ignorance. So we're going to refer to a story and read a story in the Caitanya Caritamrta. So Jaya Jaya Sri Caitanya, Jaya Nityananda, Jaya Dvaita Chandra, Jaya Gaur Bhakta Vrinda, Jaya Jaya Sri Caitanya, Jaya Nityananda, Jaya Dvaita Chandra, Jaya Gaur Bhakta Vrinda, Jaya Jaya Sri Caitanya, Jaya Nityananda, Jaya Dvaita Chandra, Jaya Gaur Bhakta Vrinda. So the story we're going to be talking about tonight, or this afternoon, is from the Madhya Lila chapter 5, and this is the story of Shakshi Gopal. So we're going to start sort of like halfway in the beginning, middle, beginning of the chapter, so I want to bring everyone up to speed, so to speak, before we actually start the reading and talking about the story. So the title of Shakshi Gopal refers to a deity that's a witness. Okay, Shakshi Gopal. Gopal, who is a witness. And this is the story of Gopal witnessing a marriage promise. So this deity of Gopal used to be in Vrindavan, actually right where the Radha Govinda temple is. And now the deity is in a place called Shakshi Gopal, which is sort of halfway in between Jagannath Puri, and Bhuvaneshwara. Bhuvaneshwara is actually called Gupta Kashi because at one particular point Kashi was burned to ashes by Krishna's Sudarshan disc. Anyway, so in Bhuvaneshwara you have the deity of Lord Shiva. Sometimes in India there's a conflict between those who worship Lord Shiva and those who worship Vishnu. And particularly that conflict becomes very prominent in a place called Kanchi. Some of you may have heard of Kanchipur. Half of the city is for Vishnu and half of the city is for Lord Shiva. So there's Shiva Kanchi and Vishnu Kanchi. Anyway, so I don't want to talk about that today. So you have Bhuvaneshwara and Jagannath Puri, and then there's the Shakshi Gopal temple. So Shakshi Gopal, that deity, used to be in Vrindavan, and now he's there in the town of Shakshi Gopal, or in the stop on the way to Jagannath Puri. So how is that? Well, this is a long story, but it starts with two brahmanas who are on pilgrimage, not only to Vrindavan, but in many places in India. Actually, they went to Kashi also. And eventually they ended up in Mathura and Mathura Vrindavan. So one of the brahmanas was an older brahmana from a very rich family. And the other brahmana was a brahmana, young man, very handsome young man, from a very poor family. Now, for those of you from India, which is most of you here, you know there's not only caste distinction between different people when you arrange marriages, but also there's a distinction between who's poor and who's rich. Of course, Chanakya Pandit, he says something very interesting. He says one should accept a good wife from any caste, or if the wife is good. Now, what's a good wife? Does anyone know? Sonu never talks back. Because Chanakya Pandit says what? Apriyavadana, who has words that are not pleasing, then aranyatena gantavyam yata ranyam yata graham. Do you know that verse? You don't know the translation of it? So he says, if your wife doesn't speak pleasingly, hopefully I'm not offending anybody, then your household, yata ranyam yata graham. Aranyam means like forest. Griham means your house. Your house is already like a forest. So ranyatena gantavyam, so you better get out. So, anyway, so Chanakya Pandit says one should accept a good wife from any caste. It's not important. But still, in India you find a lot of caste distinction and a lot of, financial distinctions. And it really mitigates against love. Because actually a husband and wife are supposed to love each other. It's not supposed to be a business arrangement. Just like sometimes you find in the Vedic literatures there is some business arrangement and the girl doesn't like it and she calls for the boy to kidnap her. Right? Just like you see with Subhadra. She didn't like that business arrangement. She was supposed to marry Duryodhana. And then Arjuna kidnapped her. And then Rukmini was supposed to marry Shishupal. And Rukmi, her brother, actually had arranged the whole thing. And therefore Krishna had to kidnap her because she didn't want, she actually wrote a note. So it's not that the women were completely dependent or just slaves. She actually wrote a note, sent it by a Brahmin to Krishna. And Krishna came and just swooped her off her feet. And she drove the chariot, of course. So you see these different types of marriages. Anyway, getting back to the story, you have this rich Brahmin, I think you know what I'm going to talk about, and this poor Brahmana, and the rich Brahmin, he's older and he has a young daughter. So anyway, so they're both on pilgrimage together, and the young Brahmin, following Vaishnava etiquette, is serving the older Brahmana, because that's natural. You're supposed to serve someone who's older than you. taking care of his needs. And the older Brahmana says, I didn't have any problems on this whole pilgrimage because you've been so good to me. I have to really reward you. And the younger Brahmana said, no. My service alone, or serving you alone, is enough of a reward. That's true. That's all we should ask for. And that's what Krishna said to the gopis. The only way I can reward you for your love is your love. So this is how we should be thinking. We shouldn't be doing something for some ulterior purpose. We should be doing things simply out of love for Krishna or love for someone else. That's actually the most wonderful thing, when we actually serve in a causeless way. Ahaitukiya pratiyata yatma suprasidati. That, of course, Krishna's description, or the Bhagavatam's description of pure love. That pure love means it's never impeded in any circumstance and has no cause. Really important. So this Brahmin, younger Brahmin, was serving the older Brahmin out of pure love. Just want to serve the Vaishnavas. And so the older Brahmin was thinking, I got to do something for him. You know, he's done so much for me. So he said to the younger Brahmin, because I'm so pleased with you, I'm going to give my daughter in marriage to you. And the younger Brahmin said, don't talk like that. It's not going to happen because I'm from a very poor family, you're from a very rich family. You know, this is just unheard of in those days. And then the older Brahmin kept insisting, no. My daughter, I can give her to you. It's my right, it's adhikar, it's my right. And the young Brahmin says, I understand this, but you have other family members. You have a wife, you have a son, and if you oppose their will, your life will be hell. And it's true, you know, like whoever you're living with, because you're trying to understand. In those days, people lived with a big extended family, like 49, 50. I was talking to one girl today. She said, I have 49 cousins. She's in India. Yeah. Oh, my God. 49 cousins. That means how many uncles and aunts do you have? Well, that's because it's extended village relationship. We understand that. And so they have all this social pressure. People are very concerned about what? Reputation. What will people say if my daughter marries a poor guy? Oh my God, my reputation will go to hell. Isn't it people think like that a lot? Reputation is so important. And people worried what are they saying behind my back? Oh my God. And now the internet makes it even worse. What are they tweeting behind my back? Isn't it? So I was actually talking to someone today in India, and I said, you just forget it. Just be concerned with what Krishna and Guru think. And they say, how do you do that? And I said, that's very hard. It's almost impossible when you're surrounded by all these people who are going to start making faces at you. Because it's not only that they criticize you, but every time you look at them, they're and your wife's not talking to you for 3 years, you know, it makes life kind of miserable. And she's not cooking for you, not ironing your clothes or something like that. It gets pretty miserable. So that's why it's important to have good reputation. Although for a sannyasi, the only need for good reputation is for preaching, so people will listen to him. But otherwise, you have great devotees or even incarnations of the Lord, like Lord Rishabhadev, who just simply acted crazy so people would leave him alone. Or Gaurkashodas Babaji Maharaj, who chanted his japa in a latrine so people wouldn't harass him. So sometimes I think like that too. Maybe I should just like act crazy and then I'd just chant Hare Krishna in peace. But I won't do that because Prabhupada wouldn't want that. So anyway, so reputation. So the younger Brahmin keeps saying this. The older Brahmin says, no, I insist. And the younger Brahmin says, okay. So what did you make this promise in front of Gopal? Not that guy back there, but in front of Gopal, the deity. And so they both go. The older Brahmin says, I promise my daughter will marry this younger Brahmin. Okay, and the younger Brahmana says, Gopal, if there's any problem, I'm going to call on you. And so at this point, the deity doesn't speak back. Later on, the deity will speak back in this particular pastime. So if there's any problem, I'll call on you. Okay. So then they go back to Vijayanagara, which is where they're from. And everybody's living life peacefully. The older Brahmana is remembering this. Oh my God, oh my God. He tells his family about what he promised. His wife and his son say, we're going to just take poison if you do this. You know, talk about guilt trips. You know, I'm quite familiar with this because when I joined the movement, my mother sent me messages that she was dying because I joined the Hare Krishna movement. She was dying and I'd be the cause of her death. And all the relatives were just saying, you're going to be the cause of her demise, you know, her death. You can't do this to your poor mother. Actually, this morning I spoke to my mother today, and she hasn't died. And it's 50 years later. So, you know, it's taken a long time. So, so anyway, so the family's threatening. And then the son of the older Brahmana says, Dad, you don't have to worry about it. Don't lie. Just say, you don't really remember specifically what you said. And I'll take care of the rest. And so, this is the point we're coming to right now in the story. So the younger Brahmana finally comes to the older Brahmana's house and says, remember the promise? And the point is, the younger Brahmana is not just like lusty after some girl. He wants to make sure that the older Brahmana's promise before the deity is kept, because that will protect the older Brahmana's religious principles. If one makes a promise before the deities, Prabhupada points this out in the purport. One makes a promise or testifies in front of the deities, it's considered very serious in India. For example, if you have a case where there's two people claiming property, the same property, then you go in front of the deities. People would be scared of saying something false in front of the deities because they know Krishna will smash them if they do that. So out of fear, Krishna is sometimes taken as a judge in a particular case. So the son says, okay, I'll take care of it. You just say, you know, you have some trouble remembering. Okay. So at this particular juncture in the story, which we're going to continue reading, the younger Brahmana is coming to claim his prize. And prize, that's interesting. And the older Brahmana's son is getting into the action. And you'll hear this. This is the older Brahmana's son speaking in this first verse. So I'm going to do the Bengali, which is very sweet. Tirtha yatraya pitara sange chilabahu dana danate ki dushtera laite hailamana. While touring various holy places of pilgrimage, my father carried much money. Seeing this money, this rogue decided to take it away. So he's accusing the younger Brahmana of being a dacoit, of being a thief. All right. And text 60. Arakeha sange nahi he sangha he kala dutura kayayana vapi karila pagala. There was no one besides this man with my father, giving him an intoxicant known as dutura to eat. This rogue made my father mad. Savatana lanakahe chore lahila dana kanya dite chahiyache utaila vachana. Having taken all my father's money, this rogue claimed that it was taken by some thief. Now he is claiming that my father has promised to give him his daughter in charity. This is an amazing story. Tomara sakala loka karaha vichare mora pitari kanya dite yogya ki ihare. You're following on the screen? Okay. All of you assembled here are gentlemen. Please judge whether it is befitting to offer this poor Brahmin, my father's daughter. Etashuni lokera mane haila sangsaya sambhabe dana lobe loka chade dharma bhaya. Hearing all these statements, all the people gathered there became a little doubtful. They thought it quite possible that because of attraction for riches, one might give up his religious principles. Tabe chota viprakahe shuna mahajana nyaya jinipare kahe asacha vachana. At that time, the young Brahmin said, "My dear gentlemen, please hear. Just to gain victory in an argument, this man is lying. E vipramora sivaya tushtayabe hayela toriyami kanya diva apane kahila." Being very satisfied with my service, this Brahmana said to me of his own accord, "I promise to hand over my daughter to you." Tabe muni nishedinhi shunadvijavara tomara kanyara yogya nahi muni vara. At that time, I forbade him to do this, telling him, "O best of the Brahmanas, I am not a fit husband for your daughter. Kahan tumi pandita dhani parama kulina kahan muni daridra murka nicha kulahina." Whereas you are a learned scholar, a rich man belonging to an aristocratic family, I am a poor man, uneducated, and with no claims to aristocracy. You see this caste distinction right there. It's really, really important. I mean, it isn't important, but people are taking it as important because of family prestige. That reminds me of the story where Lord Vishnu, wanted to marry a Vedavati who was Bhumi. You know the story? I told that story before. Well, I can tell it real quickly. So Lord Vishnu lost Lakshmi. There was a separation. She didn't leave. It wasn't a divorce. It was a separation. She just left him because she was upset with him. So even Lakshmi gets upset. And Vishnu was bereft of Lakshmi. He was looking. The reason she was angry is because he had gotten kicked in the chest by Brigamuni. And she couldn't stand that her husband was treated in such a way. And she's on the chest of the Lord. So, she had to endure the foot of Brigamuni. So she was really upset. So he was looking for her, found this other girl, to make a long story short, and that was Vedavati from the Ramayana, and Bhumi, Bhudevi. And he didn't have enough money to marry her because she was from a king's family. She was a princess. So it was a big problem. And so he had to borrow money from Kubera. So if you're Lord Vishnu, you always have a bank to go to. even if Lakshmi disappears, then you got Kubera, who's very rich. So that's why today in the temple in Tirumala, Balaji, people have to keep giving Balaji money so he can pay back Kubera. And also pay his rent on the land that he has to Varahadev. That's in Tirumala. If any of you are fortunate enough to go there. I've been there so many times. I ran up the hill sometimes too. Anybody walk up the hill there? You see the nice deer park on the way up? You can actually pet the deer and feed the deer. It's a very beautiful place. Anyway, let's go back to the story. Tabue vipramore kahibara bhara tore kanya dilun tume karaha swikara. Still, this Brahmin insisted again and again. He asked me to accept this proposal, saying, "I have given you my daughter. Please accept her." Tabiyami kahilan shuna mahamati tomara stri putra yatira nahaive samati. Just a note, you pronounce Bengali different than you do Sanskrit, in case any of you are wondering. I then said, "Please hear, you are learned Brahmana. Your wife, friends, and relatives will never agree to this proposal. Kanya dite naribe oive asachavachana punarapi kahi vipra kariyayatana. My dear sir, you will not be able to fulfill your promise. Your promise will be broken. Yet again and again, the Brahmana emphasized his promise. Kanya tore dilun dvidda nakariha chite atmakanya tiba keva pare nishedite. I've offered you my daughter. Do not hesitate. She is my daughter, and I shall give her to you. Who can forbid me? Little did he know. Taviami kahilan jidakari mana gopalera hagika e sachavachana. At that time, I concentrated my mind and requested the Brahmana to make the promise before the Gopal deity. Tabi in the hon gopalera agete kahila tumi jana he vipre kanya ami tila. Then this gentleman said in front of the Gopal deity, my dear Lord, please bear witness. I have offered my daughter to this Brahmana in charity. Tabiyami gopalere sakshi karinda kahilan tanra pate minati karina. Accepting the Gopal deity as my witness, I then submitted the following at his lotus feet. That is, Krishna's lotus feet. Yadi e vipra morena divye kanyadana shakshi bolai muktomaya hayo savadana. If this Brahmana later hesitates to give me his daughter, my dear Lord, I shall call on you as a witness. Please note this with care and attention. Evakye sakshi mora ache mahajana yanravakya sachakari mane tribhuvana. Thus I have called upon a great personality in this transaction. I've asked the Supreme Godhead to be my witness. The entire world accepts the words of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. And Prabhupada's purport here. Although the young Brahmana described himself as having no claims to aristocracy and being an uneducated common man, still he had one good qualification. He believed that the Supreme Personality of Godhead was the topmost authority. He accepted the words of Lord Krishna without hesitation, and he had firm faith in the Lord's consistency. According to Prahlad Maharaj, another authority on the Supreme Personality of Godhead, such a staunch and faithful devotee of the Lord must be understood to be a most learned scholar. Tan monye ditam utamam. That's from the Bhagavatam 7.5.24. A pure devotee who has firm faith in the words of the Supreme Personality of Godhead is to be considered a most learned scholar, the topmost aristocrat, and the richest man in the whole world. All godly qualities automatically exist in such a devotee in the preaching work of the Krishna consciousness movement. We, as the servant of the servant of the servant of the servant of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, fully believe in the words of Krishna and as servants of the disciplic succession. In this way, we are presenting the words of Krishna throughout the world, even though we are neither a rich man nor a very learned scholar, and even though we do not belong to any aristocracy. This movement is still being welcomed and is very easily spreading all over the world. Although we are very poor and have no professional source of income, Krishna supplies money whenever we need it. Whenever we need some men, Krishna supplies them. Thus it is stated in the Bhagavad Gita in the 6th chapter, text 22. Yam ladva chaparam lavam manyate nadikam tataha. Actually, if we can attain the favor of the Supreme Personality of Godhead Krishna, we do not need anything else. We certainly do not need those things which a mundane person considers to be material assets. And that there's several points that Prabhupada makes here. One is, Yasha Devi Para Bhaktir Yatate Tata Kuru Tashaite Katita Yarta Prakashante Mahatmana. That one who has faith in the words of the spiritual master, one has faith in the Vedic literatures, one has faith in the Supreme Personality of Godhead, then everything is revealed to him. And not only is everything revealed to him, but he also gets good fortune. Like we've been talking about this a lot in our class in the evening. that everybody's interested in Lakshmi, right? You know Lakshmi? Like you have Lakshmi Puja, where you're not supposed to spend any money outside of the house because the rest of the year may go out if you spend it that one day. So the problem is that if you have Lakshmi without Narayan, then what you get is Maya Lakshmi. It's apparently or she's apparently there. Just like our friend Ravan apparently thought he had Sita Devi, but he didn't have real Sita Devi. He had the cause of his destruction there. He thought, oh, my good fortune is now starting. But actually his good fortune was finished as soon as he attempted to kidnap Sita Devi, but he didn't actually get the real Sita Devi. So the point is, what is good fortune? I mean, let's examine good fortune for a second. Good fortune doesn't mean money you win the lottery. Sometimes you see the people win the lottery, and not sometimes, practically every time, they're the most miserable people. Because everybody's after them, first of all, including the U.S. government for taxes. But all their friends and relatives, finally they have millions of friends in the world, people they never knew before. And the money destroys their lives. So that money is not Lakshmi. Lakshmi is good fortune. So one has good fortune. What is good fortune? First of all, not being in anxiety. Let's take it in a negative way. Not being sick, not being in anxiety, having health, okay? That's one thing. And good fortune is also, having a society, friendship, and love. People who love you, even if you're a very poor person. That's why when some governmental agency, and I forget, United Nations governmental agency, did a study of where are the people the happiest of the world, and it wasn't the United States. And it turned out that some, what we would call third world countries, people were extremely happy in those countries. Extremely happy. Happier than the United States with all of its opulence. So happiness, opulence, and also in the Vedic system, opulence is considered land and cows, right? Of course, I'm not saying you should all go out and get some cows or get some land. But, it's not just like some bitcoins, which is just an illusion, or doggy coins, right? They call dodgy coins. I know it's called dodgy coins, but I call it doggy coins. So it's just all illusory wealth, phantasmagoria. It's really being happy because your needs are fulfilled and your spiritual need of Krishna consciousness is fulfilled. That's Lakshmi. Try to understand that. So that's really what wealth is. And therefore, if one has faith in Krishna, getting back to the point, spiritual master, Vedic literatures, one gets that. Another point Prabhupada points out here in the verse is the success potency that is built in to the order of the Supreme Personality of the Godhead coming through the spiritual master. And actually Prabhupada comments on this a number of times, that if one gets an instruction from the spiritual master, then the success potency is actually built into that instruction. So you see, that's really the point here. This young Brahmin, he had faith in Krishna, so he was already wealthy. Maybe not from the perspective of this ritualistic family, the older Brahmana's ritualistic family, but from an actual perspective. And he had a service attitude towards the Vaishnavas. So that's richness. He may not have owned the biggest house in Cary, but or in Hillsborough. But still, he was happy. And he had Lakshmi. And he had the mercy of the Supreme Lord. So this is a very important point that Prabhupada's here making here in this particular purport. I thought I would stop there. Well, let's continue. Tabe bada viprakahe e sacha kata gopala yare shakshidena apane asi eta tabe kanya divahami janiha nishchaya tanra putra kagiye balabata hoya. Taking this opportunity, the elderly Brahmin immediately confirmed that this was really true. He said, "If Gopal personally comes here to serve as a witness, I shall surely give my daughter to the young Brahmin." The elderly Brahmin's son immediately confirmed this, saying, "Yes, very nice settlement." So you'll hear why he agreed to that. Prabhupada said, as the super soul within the heart of all living entities, Krishna knows everyone's desire, everyone's request, and everyone's prayer. Although all these may be contradictory, the Lord has to create a situation in which everyone will be pleased. This is an instance of a marriage negotiation between an elderly Brahmin and a youthful one. The elderly Brahmana was certainly willing to give his daughter in charity to the young Brahmana, but his son and relatives became impediments to this transaction. The elderly Brahmin considered how to get out of this situation and still offer his daughter to the young Brahmin. His son, an atheist and a very cunning fellow, was thinking on how to stop the marriage. The father and son were thinking in a contradictory way, yet Krishna created a situation wherein they both agreed. They both agreed that if Gopal Didi would come and serve as a witness, the daughter would be given to the young Brahmin. So in other words, the younger Brahmin, he had that faith. He had that faith. Don't touch.
It's on the deities.
Oh, it's on the deities. Okay, you can just switch it. Okay. I don't know why it would switch in the middle of class.
It's just time that way.
Oh, I'm supposed to end class now? So anyway, the deities look a lot better than me in any case. So, okay. So anyway, the younger Brahmana, he didn't have any faith in Krishna. And he believed that this was all just like stones. You know, the deity is stone. And the older Brahmana, he had that faith in Krishna. So he understood that Krishna was going to come through. So, Bada viprera mane Krishna bada dayavan avashamora gakyatenho karibe pramana. The elderly Brahmana thought, since Lord Krishna is very merciful, he will certainly come to prove my sentiment, or my statement, sorry. Putrera mane pratima na asive sakshi dite e budye dvijanahaila samate. The atheistic son thought, it is not possible for Gopal to come and bear witness. Thinking thus, both the father and son agreed. Jota vipra bale patra karaha likana punayena nahi chale esaba vachana. The young Brahmin took this opportunity to speak. Please write this down on paper in black and white so that you may not again change your word of honor. Tabe sabaloka mele patra talikila dunhara samatalana madhyashta rakila. All the assembled people got this statement down in black and white, and taking the signatures of agreement from both of them, served as mediators. Tabe chota viprakahe shuna sarva jana e viprasatya vakya dharma parayana. The young Brahmana then said, will all you gentlemen present please hear me? This elderly Brahmin is certainly truthful and is following religious principles. Svavakya charite inhara nahi kabumanha swajana mrityu vaye kahe asacha vachana. He had no desire to break his promise, but fearing that his kinsman would commit suicide, he deviated from the truth. Inhara punye krishne ane sakshi bolaeba tabe viprera sacha pratigya rakhiva. By the piety of the elderly Brahmin, I shall call the Supreme Personality of Godhead as a witness. Thus, I shall keep his truthful promise intact. Eta shuni nastika loka upahasakare keha baleshwara dayalu asiteha pare. Hearing the empathic statement, empathic? It says empathic here. It's empathic statement of the young Brahmana. It shouldn't be.
On the big screen it says emphatic.
What?
On the big screen behind you it says emphatic.
Yes, emphatic. Here it says empathic. It's not empathic. It's emphatic. All right. Anyway, hearing the emphatic statement of the younger Brahmana, some atheists in the meeting began to cut jokes. However, someone else said, after all, the Lord is merciful, and if he likes, he can come. Tabi se chota vipra gela brindavana dandavat kare kahe sabha vivarana. After the meeting, this young Brahmana started for Vrindavana. Upon arriving there, he first offered his respectful obeisances to the deity and then narrated everything in full detail. Actually, we'll finish the story today. Brahmanya deva tumibada dayamaya dviviprera dharma raka hana sadaiha. He said, my Lord, you are the protector of Brahminical culture, and you are also very merciful. Therefore, kindly show your great mercy by protecting the religious principles of us two Brahmanas. Kanya pabe moramane iha nahi sukha brahmanera patigya yaya ebada dukha. My dear Lord, I am not thinking to become happy by getting the daughter as a bride. I am simply thinking that the Brahmana has broken his promise, and that is giving me great pain. It was not at all the intention of the young Brahmana to get the daughter of the elderly Brahmin in marriage and thus enjoy material happiness and sense gratification. It was not for that reason that the young Brahmana went to Vrindavan to ask the Supreme Personality of Godhead to act as a witness. His only concern was that the elderly Brahmana had promised something, and if Gopal did not bear witness to that transaction, then the older Brahmana would incur a spiritual blemish. Therefore, the young Brahmana wanted protection and help from the deity. The young Brahmana was thus a pure Vaishnava, and he had no desire for sense gratification. He wanted only to serve the Supreme Personality of Godhead. And the older Brahmana was also a Vaishnava and very devoted to the Lord. Eta jani tumi sakshi deha daya maya jani sakshi nahi deya thara papa haya. The young Brahmana continued, my dear sir, you are very merciful and you know everything. Therefore, kindly be a witness in this case. A person who knows everything, who knows things as they are, and still does not bear witness becomes involved in sinful activities. In other words, he's having an argument with the deity. He said, if you don't do something about this, you're going to get some karma for this. So Prabhupada says the dealings between a devotee and the Lord are very simple. The young Brahmana said to the Lord, you know everything, but if you do not bear witness, you will be involved in sinful activities. There's no possibility, however, the Lord's being involved in sinful activities. A pure devotee, even though he knows everything of the Supreme Lord, can speak with the Lord exactly as if he were a common man. Although the dealings between the Lord and his devotee are always very simple and open, there is formality. All these things happen because of the connection between the Lord and the devotees. And now Krishna speaks. Krishna kahe vipratumi yahaswa bhavanhe sabakari more tume kariha smarane. Lord Krishna replied, my dear Brahmana, go back to your home and call a meeting of all the men. In that meeting, just try to remember me. So Krishna is basically saying, don't worry. I don't have to come with you. Avya Baba Hana Ami Tahan Sakshi Diva Tabi Dvivit Prera Sacha Pratigya Rakiva. I shall certainly appear there, and at that time I shall protect the honor of both you Brahmanas by bearing witness to the promise. Viprabale Yarihak Chaturbhuja Murti Tabu Tamara Vakye Karuna Haibe Pratititi. The young Brahmana replied, my dear sir, even if you appear there as a four-handed Vishnu deity, still none of these people will believe in your words. E murti gya yari e shri vadane sakshi deha yari tabe sarvaloka shune. Only if you go there in this form of Gopala and speak the words from your beautiful face will your testimony be heard by all the people. Krishna kahe pratimachale kotana shuni viprabale pratimahana kaha kenavani. This is actually really funny. This is when he actually defeats Krishna. Lord Krishna said, I never heard of a deity's walking from one place to another. The Brahmana replied, that is true, but how is it that you are speaking to me although you are a deity? And Prabhupada tells the story a little bit differently. He says, the Brahmana said, that's true, but I never heard of a deity talking either, so if you can talk, you can walk. That's how Prabhupada explained it. Pratima nahi tumi sakshat brajendra nandana vipralagi kara tumi akarya karana. My dear Lord, you are not a statue. You are direct. He's preaching to Krishna, telling Krishna what he is. You are directly the son of Maharaj Nanda. Now, for the sake of the old Brahmana, you can do something you have never done before. Hasina Gopalakahe Shunaha Brahmana Tomara Pache Pachehami Kariba Gamana. Shri Gopalji then smiled and said, my dear Brahmana, just listen to me. I shall walk behind you, and in this way I shall go with you. And we'll just finish up with this purport. The conversation between the Lord Krishna and the Brahmana is proof that the Lord in his Archa Murti, or form made of material elements, is not material, for those elements, although separated from the Lord, are also part of the Lord's energy, as stated in the Bhagavad Gita. Because the elements are the Lord's own energy, and because there is no difference between the energy and the energetic, the Lord can appear through any element. Just as the sun can act through its sunshine and thus distribute its heat and light, so Krishna, by his inconceivable power, can appear in his original spiritual form in any material element, including stone, wood, paint, gold, silver, and jewels, because the material elements are his energy. The Shastras warn, Arche Vishnu Shiladi, Naraki Saha. One should never think of the Archamurti, the deity within the temple, as stone, wood, or any other material element. And also the complete verse states that nor should one see the spiritual master as an ordinary person, because if one does so, one is Narakaha Sahi, a resident of hell. Because of his advanced, Naraka means hell. Because of his advanced devotional position, the young Brahman knew that although the deity of Gopal appeared to be stone, he was not stone. He was the son of Nanda Maharaj, Brajendra Nandana himself. As such, the deity can act exactly as the Lord did in his original form as Krishna. Lord Krishna was talking to the young Brahmana just to test his knowledge about the Archa Vigraha. In other words, those who have understood the science of Krishna's name, form, qualities, and so forth, can also talk with the deity. To an ordinary person, however, the deity will appear to be made of stone, wood, or some other material. In the higher sense, since all material elements ultimately emanate from the supreme spiritual entity, nothing is really material. Being omnipotent, omnipresent, and omniscient, Krishna can deal with his devotees in any form without difficulty. By the mercy of the Lord, the devotee knows perfectly well about the Lord's dealings. Indeed, he can talk face to face with the Lord. So we're going to end our reading right now. And this is very, very important. Prabhupada also gave the example of an electrician who is dealing with electricity, and he can have the electricity heat or have the electricity cool. So the Lord can do anything with any one of his energies. I mean, he's omnipotent, which means he's all potent. He can do anything with any energy, any time, including the time factor. Krishna in the Gita, of course, says, what kalo asmi. We were hearing this morning in class, that after Arjuna saw this universal form in the 11th chapter of the Bhagavad Gita, he asked Krishna, who are you? And Krishna said, I am time. I've come to kill everybody, except you, the Pandavas. So these are different forms or manifestations of Krishna, and Krishna can manifest himself any way he wants, and he doesn't have a material body. So even though there's the deity apparently made of stone or wood or jewels, or even a deity of the mind, like there's that story in the Nectar of Devotion, how Brahman, he was offering obeisances and service to the deity in his mind because he didn't have any external deity, and then finally was offering sweet rice. He cooked sweet rice for the deity, and he was testing the sweet rice in his mind. It's all the mind. and he touched the sweet rice with his finger to make sure it was cold enough, and he burnt his finger, and he came back to external consciousness. Finger was burnt, and he was actually offering to the deity in his mind, and the Lord in the spiritual world was laughing at him the whole time and sent an airplane down, picked him up, and took him back to Godhead. So Krishna, the mind is one of the material elements too, isn't it? Isn't it? Earth, water, fire, air, ether, mind, intelligence, and false ego. Pretty good. So Krishna can appear in the material, any material elements, or in a combination of the material elements he likes. He can transform that, and also he can disappear too. That's true. Like if you commit offenses to the deity, Krishna can disappear from there. One time I was, and I've told this story before, I was with Prabhupada, and Prabhupada was commenting about a particular temple that had a deity where they disrespected the devotees. They were offensive to the deity. And Prabhupada said to the devotees, when they told him that they had seen the deity, Prabhupada said, there is no deity there. And so there was like a semi-argument, not really argument, because you wouldn't argue with Prabhupada. There was a discussion with Prabhupada, but Prabhupada, we saw the deity. And Prabhupada said, you heard what I said. There's no deity there. And then devotees were just shocked, We've seen the deity with our eyes. Prabhupada said, there's no deity. And then Prabhupada made that famous statement, which is actually from Bengali, which I don't remember the Bengali of. He said it's like using the Shalagram Shila to crack nuts with. So in other words, if one treats the deity like that, it doesn't respect. Lord Kapila Devi, here's another quote from the third canto of Srimad Bhagavatam. It states that if one serves the deity nicely but doesn't respect the Vaishnavas, then his worship of the deities is like offering oblations to ashes. Not with ashes, to ashes. So in other words, it's useless. So that's called Kanishta Adhikari, who is worshiping the deity, but he cannot actually make that firm contact or connection with the deities because he's not having the proper understanding and serving those who are actually dear to the deity. And Krishna in the Adi Purana says, those who say they're my devotees are not my devotees. And those who say they are devotees of my devotees, they are actually my devotees. So these are very important lessons for us. And so here this younger Brahmin gets the deity to walk across India all the way to Vijayanagara. And the deity, we're not going to keep reading today, but the deity actually attests to the fact of the promise, and they got happily married and lived happily ever after. It's a love story. The younger Brahmin and the older Brahmana's daughter, and the older Brahmana's family shut their mouths at that point, because they had to admit that Krishna is a real person. They were converted. So everybody, it's a win-win situation. The older Brahmana's son had this wake-up call when he saw Krishna. And he became a devotee, and he got married to a devotee wife, and they had nice devotee children. I added to the story, of course. So, but it's happy. They got Lakshmi. So anyone who wants Lakshmi without Narayan or without Krishna doesn't get Lakshmi. Just gets more misery. And the money you get, if you get it, will cause you misery. So any questions or comments? Yes, Gopal. Oh, he's the one who walked across India. Yeah.
This story is a little similar to the story in Krishna book where the demons were advising Kamsa, don't worry about Lord Vishnu. He's stuck inside the hearts of all the living entities and he can't come out.
Yeah, and he did come out.
So sometimes we see people who claim to understand religious principles, God, Krishna, religion, but they only accept those parts that help them, and they don't really admit Krishna's absolute omnipotence,
Yeah.
omnipresence, and omniscience. So how do we distinguish between someone who claims to be religious and someone who actually has real faith?
Well, someone who has real faith sees Krishna everywhere, and not only in the deity. That's real faith. A Kanishta Adhikari sees that Krishna is just in the deity, and a Mayavadi sees that Krishna is everywhere but not in the deity. God is everywhere except the temple. That's an impersonalist. Everything is sarva kal vidam brahma. Everything is Brahman except for the temple. Which is kind of crazy, because if everything is Brahman, the temple and the deity must also be Brahman. That's one of the aphorisms the impersonalists cite. So we are interested in associating with those who see Krishna, or understand at least that Krishna is everywhere. Yomam pashati sarvatra sarvam chamai pashati tashaham na pranashami tacha me na pranashati. One who sees me everywhere, sees everything in me, is never lost to me, nor am I ever lost to him. So, anantarastam paramanu chayantarastam. Isn't it? Krishna's in every atom. So one should see, like Prabhupada said, I'm sitting on Krishna. Of course not this Krishna. Krishna's illusory energy, or Krishna's material energy. Earth, water, fire, air, ether. Like this. But, it's Krishna, belongs to Krishna, and Krishna's in every atom, and Krishna is in everyone's heart. Sarvasya cha hamri sanavishto. Matak smritir jnanavaponam cha. Also, Isara sarvabhutanam. Hridesha Arjuna tishtati. Brahmayan sarvabhutani yantra. Rudani maya. So, that's the difference. We are looking for anyone who sees that Krishna is in the temple and Krishna also owns everything. Ishivashamidam sarvam yakincha jajam jagat. Right? And also Om Purnam Ada Purnamidam. Krishna is perfect and complete, and so many complete, perfect emanations come from him, and each and every one of those complete, perfect emanations from him are complete, and Krishna remains as a complete whole. Anyway, so many verses I can quote in this respect. Yeah?
But there are those in other religious traditions who are not necessarily aware of the Vedas, and they have their own professed devotion for the Supreme Person.
That's fine. Krishna has unlimited names. Just like those who are very pious, they recite the Vishnu Sahasranam, 1,000 names of Lord Vishnu. So Prabhupada will often talk about the etymological significance or connection of the word Christ with Krishna. Or, even the word God is a name of God, secondary. So, if you can't chant Krishna, you can't chant Allah, you can't chant Jehovah, then chant God. Oh my God. Oh my God, at least you're doing something. That's a secondary name. Any name that actually refers to the absolute truth gives you benefit. Nam namakari bahudat nija sarva shaktis. Of course, the primary names, such as Krishna, Govinda, Gopal, they are actually more intimate. But anybody who chants, even accidentally, like Mara, 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 Ram, 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 like our friend Valmiki did, isn't it? Mara, Mara, Ram, 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 Ram. And he was chanting to get rid of the sinful reactions that he would have to suffer from being a dacoit. So, anyway, akama sarvakama mokshakama dharadi tivrena bhakti yogena yajeta purusham param. We should end now. We want to thank you all, and we have a program, right, on Tuesday, Nishinga Chaturdasi, which begins at, 5 o'clock again? 5 o'clock, we'll be speaking about the appearance of Lord Nrsingadev, the half-man, half-lion incarnation of the Lord, and then there'll be, what? Yeah, why don't you make an announcement? Well, be careful. So Ditchanarayan will be making an announcement.
Let's first of all thank Maharaj for the wonderful class on Shakti Gopal. Haribo! His Holiness bkgoswami Maharaj ki jai. First I will